Welcome to the Legacy of Luxury. We are talking about packaging today. There are specific reasons why, but I think if you just close your eyes and think about some of the favorite products you've bought, I think over the past decade or two, packaging has made its way into kind of that experience. Would you say so?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's iconic packaging out there that we all know and love.
And you know, I was thinking about this last night, and one of the things, like, even the service industry has changed packaging.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I got a new car, and they had it in a special solarium showroom with a bow around it. You think they were doing that when you were buying a Ford Bronco in 1974? So packaging as a whole has changed, and usually I would build to this, crescendo to this, if you will. But Jaron, I want to talk about packaging for us first, because one of the things that's so important is when I started, you were telling me about this new packaging and all the thought that went into it. And as I was thinking about it, I was like, what kind of crazy person? I just started. Who cares about that? But talk about, before we show it, because we got a special camera show set up ready to show it, talk a little bit about just what went into your thought process. What about the customer journey? What about your own ego and what you wanted for the company? Talk a little bit about it, and then I want to show it, and then we can talk a little bit about how we got to this point.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question. It might have more to do with ego than anything else. I'm not really sure, Nick.
I mentioned it.
No, listen, I'm a big touch and feel type of person. So when I was looking at the packaging and putting it together, I was really trying to figure out, okay, when the consumer who walks into Solomon Brothers Jewelers for a beautiful piece of jewelry that wants this incredible luxury feel, that's what we're talking about on this podcast, you know, that's what I wanted the packaging to mimic. And I wanted it to be a really incredible experience just with the packaging. And we'll talk about other iconic brands that certainly do that. But for Solomon Brothers, I wanted the packaging to meet the moment, to meet the product. And that was from the friction of the boxes.
Yeah.
That was from the felt of the boxes.
Yeah, the ramblings of crazy people.
The
Thinking
foiling.
about that, for sure. For sure. So, like, curation, experience, all things we talk about all the time. Like, so, you know, okay, they come in, they go, first off, they're coming here to not to shop, but for experience. It's a lifestyle. You can have a drink if you want to. You can just sit and talk. I mean, we had a sale last weekend, and people were hanging for 50 minutes just because there was so much energy.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, part of the reason people go to Costco, I don't care what anyone says, is it's buzzing.
Yeah.
There's people everywhere. Just the people watching alone, oh my goodness. But so this is really the culmination point of everything that led up to it, right?
Yeah.
All your salespeople, everything, it's that reception of the box and that unveiling of the piece. So I have to imagine that when you think about it as each individual part in that journey, this as in its core is one of the most important pieces.
I think so.
Right, but ironically, that's only something an owner can think of, right? Because a salesperson's like, my deal's done.
Yeah.
Like, my deal's closed, and the last thing you want, and I think one of the psychological things that I think we really have to get over, and I think this is that buyer's remorse. You and I have talked about this before. Yeah. No matter what kind of car you buy, if it's the best car on earth, you get into that car and you drive away, you're like, shoot, did I make the right decision? I just spent $60,000 on something, and there's always a level of buyer's remorse. They just came, they purchased. As gorgeous it is, does it? So this is where the packaging come in. This is where the trade-in comes in. This is where the price match guarantee comes in. We don't talk price because we want you to think it's cheap. It's not cheap. However, knowing that forever, you know you wouldn't be able to get this somewhere else for less has got to give you some kind of peace of mind. And it just comes all together.
Listen, buying something for what it's actually worth is an incredible feeling, and I don't think there's any better feeling than walking out of here buying. I do it every day, right? But yesterday in particular,
Jaron had to remind me yesterday that he was the #1 salesperson also. I mean, stop. The worst part was there's no context. He didn't even tell me why it happened. He just stopped my day to be like, I'm the #1 salesperson. I'm like, okay.
I just got to keep people on their toes around here, okay?
I guess so.
You know, but I was in a sale, and, you know, the customer was, should I get this color and clarity or this color and clarity? And I said, listen, you don't see as much of a difference. Save the money. Ever have that buyer's remorse? If you ever feel like you should have gone higher or better, I'll give you dollar for dollar what you spent. This is not a sales pitch on the podcast. This is more that when you're buying luxury, it's also really nice to buy what something is worth. And that's an incredible feeling.
For sure. And this is the point, right? All those factors are what culminated in this box design.
Yeah.
So when we get back from the break, we're going to show you the box design. We'll come right on back, and you'll kind of see what went into this, and then we're going to go through some history and talk a little bit more about packaging. So you've been listening to The Legacy of Luxury, and we will be right back. Welcome back to The Legacy of Luxury. Today we're talking about packaging. And Jaron now is going to show the packaging. And for everyone listening, he's going to show it, and I'm going to probably do some talk through, like I'm a car salesperson, like going like this, just so you know. So Jaron, let's do this. You, because I'm an idiot, you talk through it and you show us. We're going to pan to this special camera. You're up. Show us what we got going on here.
Absolutely. So here we go. Solomon Brothers Jewelers on the front. Talked about the foiling earlier. You know, we have switched to silver. I think just a little bit more of a modern, sleeker look than the gold was that we've really enjoyed. But this was an argument that I had with my mother, you know, on what color we would do. So it was a move away.
And I get the psychology, right? Gold is the perceived value. Even though we've had our platinum episode, we know that's not completely true.
That's right. There you go.
But there you go. We're doing a callback.
Sorry,
the
platinum foil.
We made it. We did a callback. We've made it as podcasters. We did our first callback. All right, keep going.
You know, on the packaging right here, if you can see that there's a slit here, and I was big on the actual friction of the box and making sure that it doesn't just drop when you're doing this, that you actually have to kind of put your fingers in there, peel it off. That just, again, creates the excitement. And what do you have in here? Boom, we've got nice, hard to see on camera, but nice little velvet in here, again with the silver foiling.
A different touch, a different tactileness. So you're changing it up. So you're almost playing on all the senses at the same time.
Exactly.
The only thing it doesn't do is waft you in the face with a nice perfume. Next move.
It might. Solomon Brothers cologne. You know, this doesn't just fall out, right? I mean, you're sitting right here. I don't want it to just plop out, but I want it to be easy to pull out. So, you know, you come here, pull it right out. You've got your gift, and then it's kind of like the moment is still there, right?
The moment's there.
The suspense.
And there's value. This is an item that people buy. So there's value there for travel, and you could pop it in there when you travel. It has practical use also.
Totally agree that I put it together. So, and then just, again, the slips, you don't just want to open it and see it. It's kind of that moment, that moment, you know, that you get. Beautiful necklace here, a sapphire necklace. But we're putting all of our necks in here so that it feels nice and special, and you'll get an incredible presentation. How it drops, right? The clips right here to keep it on, nice and sturdy. Went through that. You know, you don't want these guys to be falling off, but you can clip it out, take it off easily, give that to your special somebody, Nick.
Love it. Love it, dude.
This is for you, buddy.
Love it. There you go. I told you we had a callback, and he's already trying to woo me over. It's a wonderful podcast episode. All right. So look, I wanted to do that rollout first because, like, you can talk about this till the cows get home, but understanding the psychology behind it is a lot more complicated. So that was part of what went into our thing. So let's roll back a little bit, okay? Yeah. So let's go. Again, as we kind of do on the show, like, let's start talking, you know, everything was about practicality and why you would package things for a long time in our history, right? Even to the cartons of milk, because glass was easy to transport and you didn't have refrigeration, so this and that. I mean, shoot, we have salami and things because salt was the original preservative because we didn't have refrigerators. So everything was about practicality. It was really once we came out of that World War II greatest generation where everything started changing. Advertisements started rushing. It became more about product differentiation because there were competitors, there were companies, there were big companies. So things like Coca-Cola and having that ridge in the design and making it like a bottleneck that we talk of these days, things like that happened nonstop. And then with the advent of advertising, all of a sudden what made it onto the packaging became popular because that's what you can advertise in pictures and in magazines and stuff like that. You know, just when you think back, Jaron, is there anything that stands out from that time? Like, again, the advent of, for me, for some reason, it's like bubble gum. Like, because they were advertising gum everywhere, or like the Marlboro Man. Like, it wasn't just the person. It made its way on everything in the package.
Well, you know, as a young kid who loved playing baseball, my son's about to start up his league again, and I do think of Big League Chew. Yep. When you bring up gum, when you just said that, I was going to go a different direction, but when you just said that, it was like a boom moment of like, all right, is that really good to be advertising tobacco for kids? Probably not.
I mean, they also had candy cigarettes. I mean, this was just the time. It was the time. So I would rather my kid shove his mouth with Big League Chew than fake smoke a cigarette that blows out a cloud of sugar with it. And yes,
but I mean, think about it, right? If you think about the packaging, there was an actual chew packaging, right? Yep. And you think about Big League Chew. And just the play on that, honestly, I haven't thought about it in a long time until you just asked this question, but it's actually genius. Yeah. And it's still to this day, it's still in the exact, I actually saw it, I think I was in Dick's Sporting Goods or something the other, and they had it at the front counter or something, but it's still the same packaging
But the
today,
association
which
is
wild.
not with the dip anymore. The association is because there are guys in the NBA and in sports that just chew Big League Chew.
Yeah.
Because tobacco has been villainized, so people actually chew the Big League Chew,
Yeah.
and people don't know why. Like my kid, if he saw it, he'd be like, "That guy was doing Big League Chew." He wouldn't
Yeah.
know he was doing dip. Which
Right.
is crazy when you think about it. Like chewing tobacco, it's just wild. And I think like, look, consumer packaged goods is one of the easiest ones. Like, you think of the cereal boxes.
That's where I was gonna
Wheaties,
go with it.
My goodness, Wheaties really. But even go back to Frosted Flakes and the mascots started coming in, and Disney and all of these things. But I think when we really changed was when we started getting into these luxury goods. And
Yeah.
for me, like most people, obviously, it's Steve Jobs and Apple. Once you unopened that iPhone, and remember, like, even the way he packaged his speech was about packaging. He
Yeah.
didn't present, here's an iPhone. He presented, today I have for you a music device, a telephone, and a personal organizer, whatever it was. And he goes, but it's all three in one. And
Yeah.
he rolled out that iPhone. And
Yeah.
like the world stopped for a second. Collectively, any nerd, sorry, the 14 nerds watching at that point, their heart dropped for a second because there was those speeches didn't exist then.
Right.
But all of a sudden you get it, you open it, it's sleek, there's no wasted space, right? It's funny.
That was the coolest part.
And it's funny, and you think about it like, so I'm a big car guy, right?
Yeah.
The way cars are packaged, one of the things that the Germans are renowned for is every bit of space is used, right? You open up an American car from the 90s, there is wasted space everywhere.
More.
You open up a German car and every space is engineered to fit everything perfectly. It's amazing because the Americans were known as like, let's just throw as many features as we can into it,
Yeah.
right? The Japanese were, let's have all this tech. The Germans are like, let's engineer it. It's over-engineered. And then when you're packaging, think about this. You just said words about this package. Those are engineering terms.
Yeah.
You're talking about the
Sure.
grip, the bite, the tactile feel.
Yeah.
Those are never things that made its way. But once that iPhone came out and people started talking about that ultimate luxury opening packaging, man, that's when people started keeping the packages. Right? Like they kept them because
Yeah.
the iPhone was of more value. If you kept the box, who would have ever in their wildest dreams thought about that? So that was it. And because we're talking luxury, I think this is where this really took off. Let's talk about the iconic Tiffany blue box. Let's talk about a lot of these brands that the packaging has become such a part of who they are
Yeah.
that to some extent, it's more important than what's inside the package.
There's no doubt about it. A nod to my counterparts, if you will, over at Tiffany's and Cartier. But, these boxes are incredible. And they're incredible because when the consumer gets the box, regardless of what's in that box, the consumer's happy.
Yes.
And the consumer's thrilled.
Yes.
And
most of the times they're happy to know that everybody else knows that they have that box. But we'll save that for a
well,
different day.
there's that as well, right? But I mean, and you can look to Hermes and you can look to
Yeah.
Chanel, the dust covers and all of the stuff that's on. Before you even get to the product, the consumer is overjoyed, over the moon, so excited. And to me, that's what I eventually strive to be, is for the consumer to pull out a Solomon Brothers box. And why is the consumer so excited? It's because there is perceived quality in what is going to be in that box. Now, they might not like it. I just had,
Yeah, because a lot of times it's a gift. Exactly.
and listen, the purse might not be the right size. They might want a bigger size and they'll go exchange it or whatnot. But there is zero disappointment.
Yeah.
Zero. It's
Yeah.
not even close. That packaging, the minute the consumer sees it, they know they're going to be happy. It's like me getting a Scotty Cameron Putternick.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like, there's no way I'm going to be unhappy.
Yeah. This one's angle is 6% different. You need a new one. Yeah, no, I get it. And I think, look, when you talk about, like, especially like the big shopping areas, like Fifth Avenue, you want to talk about packaging? All of Fifth Avenue is a package,
Yeah.
right? Those stores, they don't even care if they make money. They're there as museums to advertise the brand, and the way they're packaged, the way if you go to Saks on Christmas, the windows are curated, all this stuff. But it's crazy. This was not stuff that was happening. This is just an evolution. And I want to talk about watches real fast because it fits our model.
Yeah.
But when we're going to come back, I want to talk a little bit about the future of this, because like all things, there's always cyclicality. So I wonder what happens when we get to the point where it's like, actually, you know what? Let's finish this conversation. We'll come back from the right talk watches. What happens when we realize how much money is going into the packaging that it would just be 15% less if they just put it in a freaking brown box? I mean, there's always cycles. We cannot always go in an upward progression. So what do you think the future of packaging looks like? What do you think it looks like from a Solomon Brothers point of view? Like, this is the investment. Does this evolve, or is this it and we stick with it because that consistency is so important?
Well, I think that, it all depends on the industry, right? We're personally, right, I'm in an industry where you're spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and you've saved up for it. It's kind of almost like it's in the budget for you. You're walking in, you want to buy an engagement ring.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's
You're not putting it on debt. It's something you pre put the money away in the pocket.
Like, think about it. You would say that a $2,500 engagement ring is like not that expensive. That's $2,500.
Right.
That is not like going to buy a pair of
cars
jeans.
that are worth less than $2,500. My wife, when I met her, was in an $800 Volkswagen.
I love that.
That was held together with zip ties.
That's why she's
point
the
for
best.
Point for a different time.
You know.
No, she's the best because she
That's
puts
why
up
she's
with me.
keeper, yeah.
She puts up with me. That's why she's the best.
When you put up with that car, you put up with you. No, so I mean, I'm lucky in that, you know, there's a lot of dollars to be had. So having a $25 packaging, you know, which is very expensive, by the way, for those out there, that's something that we can do. And I think that the psychology of it, because can we agree that packaging is a psychology experiment? I mean, in a lot of ways.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is it's psychology, but there's a little bit of sociology too, because it's how people perceive you. You buy that package for people's perception of you as well.
Exactly. What I'm saying,
Yes,
I guess my ultimate point is it has nothing to do with the quality of this sapphire necklace in here.
For sure.
That sapphire necklace is top notch.
For sure.
No matter what it came in.
And that's why I always say that we don't sell goods, we sell lifestyle.
Yeah.
So it's part of the psychology of the lifestyle.
So to answer your question, I don't think it's going anywhere. In fact, I only think here it's going to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
You know, the question is that I would have is, do we package differently for different price points, or do you keep it consistent across the board and make the color the more important thing, or is it the size of the package? That's
I love
interesting.
And I love the honesty, because these are things that we have to talk about when we talk about marketing. So you've been listening to Legacy of Luxury. We'll be right back talking watches.
Welcome back to the Legacy of Luxury. Nick, my man, we are getting into a topic that we both love.
We do. I can't believe we only have 6 minutes for it, man. This 30-minute show, I think we might already have to go to an hour.
I'm telling you.
6 minutes.
So we're talking watches, something that we love, and we're, of course, talking packaging today. And the watch companies, boy, very different packaging across the board. Tell me, let's start with your favorite box that there is for you in the watch game, and I'll do mine, and we'll kind of talk about some of the differences.
Yeah, look, I think the psychology that you mentioned before is so important, right? Because my favorite brands my favorite watches came with like either a gift that I received or that watch that was like, oh my God, I made it. I'm not saying I made it money, like I made it as a watch collector, like that Grail watch.
Yeah.
And for me, it was both a gift and a Grail watch, but it was a Zenith El Primero 21. You open this box, it was this big.
Oh, yeah.
It was solid mahogany wood, shined perfectly, impeccable. You opened it. There's a cloth, there's a cleaning cloth inside it. There's a second inside of it. It is just immaculate from beginning to end. And to see that in action was such an experience. So again, is it the best watch in the world? Does it have? It has pedigree. It's an amazing piece.
Yeah, it's a great
but
watch.
there's more to it because of that psychology.
Yeah.
How about you?
No, couldn't agree more. I definitely, you know, to me, I'm a cigar guy as well. So when I think cigar, I think humidor. I think of my dad and like the mahogany wood. Yeah. So when I think of that,
my apartment is covered in rich mahogany.
Please, you know, fake mahogany, LVT, you know, but it's the Patek box. The Patek box is that wood, that high gloss, you know, with the lacquer on it, and you pop open the lid, and it's just really something special when you get on the inside. But, you know, on top of that, I will say my favorite compartment box is probably the Rolex presidential box. Comes in a huge box. Some would say that good things come in small packages. Well, this is a big package. And it literally,
ironically, for a small watch.
But when you open it up, it's like you've got all these compartments to put everything in, and it's just kind of a cool. It almost turns into a jewelry box, which is just kind of neat. I do think that there's a functionality, and also but that overall, like the Patek box is like, whoa, that type of look is really just first class, and I love it.
Yeah, and look, one of the things about the two brands we mentioned that I think is, I don't think it applies to everybody, because I think you and I just have to know more about this stuff. But you're talking about two brands that have been around for hundreds of years, right? They're not using mahogany in these things because it's faking. They're using it because this is probably the same boxes that they used 100, 200 years ago, which there's something to. And that's why when we say Legacy of Luxury, like when we were talking about titling the show, when I saw that, I was like, that's it. Because to be real luxury, and I mean real luxury meaning you're going to stand the test of time, right? Richard Mille is a wonderful watch. You have no idea what that's going to look like in 50 years. You know what I promise you? Rolex will be around in 50 years. Patek will be around. If you made it through 200 plus years already, you'll be around in 50 years. So there is something about that luxury and that legacy, and there's something about packaging that will last. Think about it. We all have that watch box that also completely fell apart. right? Or the when you have the pad that they put the watch on, it starts peeling off of.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I've bought used watches that I get, and I'm like, what could you have done to this watch that the package is destroyed, and it completely destroyed the experience of the watch?
No, it's funny you say that. I think, and I'm sorry to anyone at Vacheron, but I think it's the Vacheron boxes, but they just start, and the Cartier watch, they start peeling.
They're terrible.
So fast. And I'm like, how can you sell a watch like this? And it's coming off.
They're terrible. But that being said, Cartier sells more watches than anybody else in the world.
Yeah.
And nobody associates Cartier with watches. So for them, they're like, wait a second, this is a loss leader. We don't have to do anything and we can make this much money.
Yeah.
So again, maybe they don't want people buying watches and that makes people buy more watches. Who the hell knows what happens in these boardrooms? But I think we'll say that like when you think of the most prestigious brands, there's something about their packaging. Nike, great example, right? Nike, the most simple package in the world. On everything. But you know what's ingrained in your brain? You see that swoosh and you're like, Nike. And it's one of the things we're working on, right? We talk about our little SB logo all the time. And it's hard to put it places because it is not completely known. So we need to just get that SB logo places. Think about how well Nike did. You see Nike and Adidas next to each other, even though they probably cost about the same amount, which one has a higher value perception to you?
Oh, the Nike for sure.
So there's so much that goes into this. We got about a minute and a half left. Talk a little bit about just what you think is coming is an industry. Like we talked luxury, but talk about like augmented reality. Like there's so many new things with AI that are going to go into this packaging. You're right. There might be custom packaging per person. What if you knew because of a browser history, the psyche of a person, and you customize the package based on what you know about that person? That's not far off, man. With 3D printing, who knows?
Well, I was about to say production's going to be the biggest challenge there, but I totally agree. I mean, you get somebody in and you know that their color palette is red, for instance. It's like, wow, you give them a red box and it's like, well, that's my favorite color. That's what I love. So I totally agree with you.
And marketing is that intrusive that we know that. Like you love lavender, we can put a lavender perfume on it when you open it. And you, psychologically, you're like, oh my God, how'd they know that?
But I do think that's, you say sense. I do think that sense is where we're going to go, at least, into the psychology of packaging, more so than, because production's still a little bit of a ways away in terms of having it that quick and being able to adapt like that.
It's actually gotten harder because it's you're making everything in China now, and by the time it ships over, and to make anything here, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this is not inexpensive to do. No. This is much more expensive than you would think to design and do everything. So, well, Jaron, it's been a great episode. Flew by as usual. We're going to have a couple new episodes coming up every week, so just keep on tuning in. Subscribe, like us, tell your friends. The best way to help a radio show and podcast. You've been listening to The Legacy of Luxury, and we'll catch you next time.